into the PLR podcast. In this special half episode, Andy and I talked to Marcus from Left Flank Vets. We had a very long conversation with Marcus. It went about 3 hours. And so we have about half of the conversation up on here on our free stream. But the other half of it, the longer conversation where we get into conversations about Stalin and other wacky things, making a leftist point of demands, that is all on our Patreon page. If you subscribe for as little as $1 a month, you can have access to that. It's a really great conversation. Marcus was a lot of fun to talk to. And so Andy and I both hope that you get a lot from this conversation and that you shame these military recruiters. Without further ado, here is Marcus.
Hey. Nice to meet you all. Marcus, Andy, Alex. Easy.
It's great to see you. I love the podcast that you guys have, all forms of the podcast, the Twitch stream you have, the YouTube videos that you have, and also like the diverse media content that you put out. You'll have everything from giving like live commentary on politics to also giving like deep discussions about different issues with like different service members and stuff. I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Yeah, and like I appreciate it, and we, like the four of us, like we kind of don't really know what we're doing. We're just like doing what we like, which I've heard is like that's what you kind of, like that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? Like doing what you actually enjoy. So, having the four of us and like us coming from different areas makes that possible, right? Because we're all like interested and knowledgeable about like different shit. And so yeah, and like that's what makes it great with like a Twitch stream is like it doesn't have to be as polished as like like some of like the top podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah, you gotta go out there and just bullshit, and yeah, it makes it easy. Cheers. So thank you, and that's the thing too. Is like when you guys had reached out, I did like the pod binge, which is like I'll listen to like 5 or 6 episodes of like one thing on like 2 times speed, just like like just hey, like what is going on, and like love, yeah, and like I don't know, I feel like with y'all is like feeling like kind of just like hanging out, talking about what's going on, which is like the shit that I like. That's like, and I kind of like feel like I don't know. I've talked before about I can't even Chapo, like I feel like Chapo kind of unlocked something, that everyone was like, yeah, and so like it's not necessarily all the same, but like that style that is like this generation of how we want to just receive content. We don't want the polished like. And today on the nightly news, like fuck all that shit. Just like talk to me like I'm a fucking person, please, So it's good that there's more left, right?
Yeah. There is a dude in Providence that like does a podcast that he's kind of like pretty liberal, and his voice changes when he gets on the radio. He's like, "Thanks for joining today."
Yeah, he's got the radio verse.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I think that what you were saying about having the right kind of vibe with discourse with leftist politics is like really important, because you have so many ideas that leftists are these scholars, these academics. They live in this ivory tower. You have to read all this theory to talk, and that if you are not at a certain level of education, you're not able to have this kind of discourse with people. So having like a laid back fireside, kind of just you're at the quiet corner of a bar having a conversation about issues. I think that's like really good, to reach people.
Yeah, and like that's what the left is. You know what I'm saying? Like we are like supposed to be the movement of the people. We're supposed to be the movement of workers. And I'm sorry if you're trying to talk to and appeal to a large swath of workers. Don't come to me with 6 volumes of something written in another language.
Yep.
Just fuck off with that.
Yeah.
speak English, motherfucker, speak English, and like, yeah, that's it. We just want to speak English to people, saying the same shit, just just yeah, just being real, being who we are, like half the fucking people you see on TV, like no one is that, you know, those human beings don't actually exist. That's like the polished like eggshell of a human being, you know? And so like yeah, like I would if it's kind of weird considering myself as like a media person, you know?
Yeah, you are though.
But yeah, like if it like I'm not going to be any of that shit. Fuck all that. You know, I I don't get paid enough.
You just got to be who you are, and the no bullshit attitude should be charming on its own.
Yeah, yeah.
You were talking before about how the four of you are from different areas, and you have different like angles on life and different kinds of experiences and different kinds of input. And from like, what are you all service members, or are you all like growing up around the military, or like, and also like, how did you guys all meet? Because like, how does that even happen? I'm a veteran. I'm a leftist. Everyone that I served with are either unemployed cops or corrections officers, and there's nothing I have to really talk to them about,
Yeah.
So, like, I think it's crazy that you guys found each other as veterans to kind of build this thing anyway. So, how did that even happen?
Yeah. So, we're all vets, so there's four of us in left flank. We're all post 9/11 military vets. I'm a Marine. Dick Warlock is he's a soldier. He served in the Army, and Lorax and Erica, they are both served in the Navy. And I guess we have all a different path to how we got to the left. But overall, it, I think so. Lorax said, like he'd actually said like he was reading Marx when he was in high school.
Wow.
But ended up still like joining like the Navy and joining the Navy because he didn't want to be in like combat, like he was just like, hey, I need a job,
That's real.
Yeah, which is like it's real. And but myself, and I think for Erica and Dick, largely like kind of like apolitical. I'm a black dude in America, so like Obama was like exciting for me, but like nothing, but it wasn't until I was getting back from my second deployment I started just asking like, well, why am I doing this? That just like critical thinking question of not just like what is the job, but why is the job? And that's when this whole thing starts unraveling, and the military industrial complex starts, realizing before my eyes, it's kind of like Neo in the Matrix, it's like once you take the pill, there's no unpill, but yeah, and for the most of us, like that's kind of like that crux of like, well, what I was a part of, what I did, what did it mean, and was it good, and if you're willing to be honest with yourself, there is a certain, amount of deep reflection that needs to be done.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
so how we met, it it is kind of strange. So myself and Dick, we had met, I guess we call our former lives, um, where I did work with like veterans advocacy within, government and stuff like that.
Oh, very cool. That's great.
And yeah, no, and then, like I learned a whole lot and absolutely great experiences. Was successful in some some avenues, but not most. But that is advocacy work. Um, but yeah, they could had worked within some nonprofits, and so we'd met through that kind of like just veterans advocacy nonprofit sphere. Myself and Lorax, we had met because some other person that I met is like, hey, you seem like a left dude, and like we started talking about Bernie Sanders and all this stuff like that. We both love Bernie. And then, yeah, he brought me into like what, the unofficial like Vets for Bernie, which was like a nationwide grassroots organization. And, like tens of thousands of veterans were like signed
Really?
into this stuff. Yeah. So coming into 2020, I was like folded in with them. I'd gotten out of the military in 2016. Yeah, so for like the June of 2016. So right before Trump had beat Hillary. So yeah, 2020, we're like, okay, Bernie's gonna fucking do it this time, you know. And we start just generating up the whole fucking thing again. The campaign takes on their own vets, has their own official vets for Bernie that they start up. They gave it to somebody. It does something, and what, we'll let that lie. Uh, but but yeah, once the campaign had taken on its official Vets for Bernie, we said, okay, what do we do now? Started just maintaining the Twitter handle really and shit posting. Switched to Left Flank Vets because Left Flank is like a military position, right? And
Yeah.
also, when we talk about leftism, right? So yeah, we did that very like very shallow, like branding, thought. And then we're like, okay, we'll just be a Twitter personality and see where we can go. And like also boosting candidates, organizations, movements that, are doing good. Um, and then so once after a while, a lot of the Vets for Birdie people kind of just drift away and just doing their own lives, right? That's not
Yep.
We're not organizing anymore. um and so it was pretty much just me and Lorax. And then that's when I'd reached out to Dick because I'd like what's funny is like, so we had been friends in like this professional sphere, but I'd watched his social media like literally jokerify before like over time. So it goes from like really excited for this gala event on Wednesday, be there, to like the Democratic Party is a bunch of shills for the corporations, And I was like, and so
Mask
it goes
off
from his
moment.
like, yeah, his picture with a suit and tie to like it's like a cartoon or something of like Snake Plissken from like the Escape from New York movies. And so I was
Oh
like, yeah,
man.
yeah. I was like, I know him. I know what he does professionally. But I was like, now that I see that his politics are, coming left, I was like, hey, you should come in with us and like honestly, it was just like just shit post on Twitter with us, You're another vet. So Dick comes in, here we go, and then with Erica, she was like kind of the last one to come into the fold. We just honestly saw her doing like awesome shit posting on Twitter. She Yeah, so we kind of like met, yeah, just start DMing each other like, hey, like love what you're doing. Like we're also vets. She started doing some organizing with United Left. Um, but then when the Army and Navy started doing Twitch streams themselves, that's when we started focusing on Twitch. At
Yeah.
first was just literally like doing calls to arms on Twitter, so people to go onto Twitch and uh talk shit to Army and Navy recruiters who are playing video games, trying to be cool gamer people so
Yeah.
that they can, prey on kids and,
Just like that
stuff like that.
military game, America's Army.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. Like it just and so it just pissed us off, right? And so at first it was just getting people into their chat and just to completely fuck with them, which was pretty successful. And like also it's like people like Jordan Yule were absolutely 100% integral. You know what I'm saying? I put most of just the fact that like people knew about this on Jordan Ewell and the reporting that he did. Um, but yeah, and like it was kind of just it was nice and it was awesome, and they like the Navy ended up having to shout out actually to another dope reporter, Ken Cliftenstein. The Navy actually created their own PowerPoint presentation about how to deal with the trolls in the Twitch chat.
I would love to sit in on that. Oh man.
Yeah, so
Great.
that's kind of how we started, but and then eventually we just said like, well, why don't we just talk about the things that we're passionate about? And that's when we started our Saturday night sedition show, which was just just a few hours on Saturday talking about news and politics and the military industrial complex, and now that has just expanded out. And so yeah, that's kind of sorry, it's a long answer, but that's kind of how we all came together to get to Left Flank.
You were talking about you were kind of finding where you were after your second deployment, and as a Marine, and I was combat arms in the Army, and like the whole like nationalistic, like there's like this force behind it that kind of a lot of people conform to, and it makes it really hard to break out of, to
Yeah.
like you said, kind of see the military industrial complex. So like what was the climate like when you were kind of like coming to terms with um leftist politics when you were still in the military? Because you couldn't, I mean, I know I couldn't like insinuate that I was like a communist, basically, like in the deep
Yeah.
Fox News is playing on every TV. You know what I mean?
So I'd say when I was in the Marine Corps, I would say I was very much like, a democratic socialist would probably have like, but I didn't even know really that, my so yeah, I would be like sitting in the barracks room watching like the young or TYT, watching the Majority Report, secular talk, like people like so like and especially like Kyle Kalinske and Michael Brooks. Um, they're the ones that kind of like I keyed into the most because they were kind of just like most like they like talk like people that I was around, especially as like a Marine, right? Like just young dudes, cursed, joked around, all types of stuff. Um, so I like while I was in the Marine Corps, I was extremely just critical of the Democrats, wholeheartedly just fuck Republicans, but yeah, like my whole time in service was under Obama, and I had to see, do, experience, be served with a whole list of other people who had to do the same and it was all under Obama. And so like that whole thing of like, it just didn't make sense to me of like, I thought the Democrats are supposed to be the good guys, but here I am doing an imperialism.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I'd actually had quite a bit of conversations in like the company office with some of the officers and some of the higher ranking like staff NCOs, um, just about politics, and just kind of like even just like the what I was watching on my own. I was way more informed than most people were on the issues, which is something
Oh
that
yeah.
like you could obviously see is like people on the left know the issues more because that's usually why you're there. Like I don't, people. If anyone's a communist because they're cool, I don't know. I haven't met one yet, right? Like it's not the aesthetic just yet, right? But maybe like the DSA Rose, like, but I don't know, nothing past that is really just like, but yeah, no, I was, we would talk, and actually, what's funny is that especially with Bernie, I was like always talking about Bernie Sanders, especially saying like, hey, this is the guy, um, and then a lot of things that he said about the VA and getting out of the wars was something that
Mhm.
we all agreed upon, you know, um, and so actually I mean like I don't have it like on me. I think it's my basement, but my last platoon commander got me a little plaque, hey, thanks sergeant for your time of service, blah blah blah. But it's he's got in quotes, feel the burn. because
Nice.
by that time I'd, and actually that was like when like that, yeah, it was. So I got out in June of 2016, and so that was like right when Bernie was just like coming down the line, So yeah, and then after I'd gotten out, and like I'd say over the Trump years, really too, and like I'd worked, I'd done some advocacy work, with the government. I'd done some work staffing for a congressional member, um, and I'd say that's when I was just like really like, oh, this whole fucking thing doesn't work, right? Like it's not just about like, hey, can we, are there some good Democrats in there? It's like this whole thing is gonna have to be restructured, right? And like
Right.
I'm still extremely passionate about electoral politics. I think that there's a lot of things that need to be done in order to make sure that you know if and when, right, there is a serious revolution where like the people are able to take power, there's going to be a whole lot of things that we need to do electorally between now and then to be
Yeah.
successful. And I mean that's a whole nother like 10-hour 3-part series or whatever. um but that's kind of where I'm at now, and like that's kind of like how I got here. Like really, I've taken a lot of stabs of trying to work within the system and just be passionate about helping people, and kind of realize like it's never going to work, and not only because like it's never going to work because it's designed not to work. There's a built-in number of homeless that they're acceptable with, a built-in number of starving kids that they're acceptable with, and I'm not going to feel bad about not being acceptable to that shit.
Amen. Yeah, there's an undercurrent. I'm sorry. There's an undercurrent of immorality that I think exists inside capitalism by needing like a subjugated people in order to continue like exploit their existence. So it's just inherently fucked.
Yeah.
As far as electoral politics, like I think Angela Davis said that the only good thing about electoral politics is that you can tell what the national class consciousness is at.
Yeah.
So I think that with Bernie, he's going to go down as like a giant because he raised class consciousness, or at least made it acceptable to be class conscious
Yeah.
in like modern times, because he was putting these policies out as a socialist, saying he's a socialist, and also getting on media, like on mainstream media. So it's not going to solve all our problems, like you said. Like, there's no way you can vote capitalism out of office.
Yeah. No. And this is where it's like I had to just this like someday just understand like I am just very passionate about politics. It's something that interests me. Like it's just I'm a nerd. I'm a policy wonk. That's that's just who I am. So, um, that's what I've just decided. Like this is my pie, right? This is my piece of the pie, and that's that. So I definitely like when like talk about this stuff, and when we stream and kind of I want just people to like just pick up on what I'm putting down. Hopefully, um, talk to your own representatives, fucking bully the shit out of them, you know, because really at the end of the day, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to do the electoral politics stuff, like a week, right? Like as
Yeah.
far as actual action of you, whether you want to contact somebody, if that's just 5 to 10 minutes of saying, hey, I'm going to call my rep about this one issue, right? Or, hey, this is the time I got to go vote, or like whatever. Um, all the rest is, that's where you really should be putting your stake in. One, people got to work and live, but yeah, like I'd much rather people just be in actual like mutual aid organizations, communal organizations, housing and union, type stuff, than watching and consuming as much government media as I do. That would be absurd. Let me do that, and I'll speak. Like we were saying there, like, I'm gonna speak English. You know, so when Joe Biden says, "Hey, we're gonna stop the supporting offensive, the offensive war in Yemen or whatever the fuck," like we know, hey, this is where he's saying bullshit, right? Because it's called the Defense Department for a reason. And so they
Yeah.
can say we're not doing offensive shit. Oh, this is for defensive measures, And so I'm gonna let people know just as plain as day as that this is how they are lying to you. And so now you can go off and enjoy the rest of your life. But if anyone brings you that bullshit, you can refute those arguments. You can, and also now lobby your own representatives to do what they need to do, which next step, repealing the AUMFs. Next step is making sure these NDAAs are also getting, repealed and then turned back. The defense bill, defense spending. Bernie Sanders has had a bill last year just to take it down 10%. And you would have thought
absolutely not.
Yeah, you would have thought like the Red Army was standing outside the Pentagon with Molotov cocktails. Like this whole thing, it's just gone too far, right? And so like people actually need to be in touch with their reps, and like I said, actually making that phone call to talk to an intern or a staffer, 10 minutes. And it's probably going to be a polite conversation, you know.
Oh yeah.
Or you can hate tweet them like I do. I'm always like, fuck
Ooh,
you.
that's yes. And so the other side of it, yeah, and which I'm all about as well. The cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is okay if it's someone in power. And for
Right.
most people don't have AOC as a rep. Your rep is some fucking dweeb with 200 followers and gets 3 likes, and every one of those likes, one like is their spouse, one like is their comms person, and the other like is the intern that wants to fucking get on their knees to get a job. That's that. So you can cyberbully these people, and they will see it. Like especially their comms person. So that comms people, those are the ones that are seeing it. And if they see it enough, they are repeating it. I was in plenty of fucking meetings, weekly staff meetings, and the comms person, hey, meeting with this person to do this interview. This person's requesting time to do this. And this many people said, we suck on Twitter about this one thing.
Do you guys ever get concentrated attacks from right wing extremists Proud Boys groups and shit like that?
So our old we had this is our the Twitter account we have now is just Left Flank Vets. It's actually our second one. Our first account, which was the changeover from Vets for Bernie, and it had 40,000 followers. That actually got hacked by a QAnon person.
Oh fuck!
So they hacked it. They had spammed a bunch of Q shit. They messaged a bunch of people that DM they had fucked it up. So we had ended up getting it back and ended up just canceling it. So yeah. But other than that, other than in our Twitch chat, if you're familiar with Twitch, there's always going to be a a chud every once in a while, but no, not so much. And like the toxic masculinity algorithm would dictate that we wouldn't get a lot of flack, right? you know I mean, Dick has his quote unquote pet, duck, which is a wooden duck. What is he pinned his purple heart to it? It's sitting next to him. It's just this joke thing of who gives a shit. But at the end of the day, there's a dude with a purple heart, on screen. So who's really gonna talk shit and but yeah. So there's a whole lot more of our women comrades or trans comrades who get a whole lot more shit. And we've actually, seen in that, had some talks with our mods to go help other Twitch streamers and stuff like that. Just keep the peace, because yeah, some of these assholes, and I don't know like what the process is, but they'll like swarm a stream and just put all types of hateful shit.
Yeah.
So
are they like other veterans, or are they just random people?
Just randoms as far as we're concerned, in which there is some veteran and veteran conservatives on Twitch, which
It's
I've
a
learned.
haven for Nazi thought too. There's a lot of like shitty people on Twitch anyway.
Yeah, which and that's I don't dive too much, but every once in a while I think like they'll put like, oh, if I think it's too is like just putting veteran, that's like something that'll like Twitch will like kick into my algorithm. And there's a few conservatives where I was just like, man, I'd love to just call it, jump into this guy's Discord and ruin his fucking day. But most, I think, yeah, I don't know. Like most of the people that we get are just, fucking losers. They say some bullshit, they get banned. End of the day. So, I mean, other than them hacking our account, taking it over, ruining it, nothing past that.
That's good. I actually troll a few accounts on Instagram that are like, they're like borderline fascist. Like I'm not sure if they recognize it or not, but it's like they'll be sharing like memes of throwing people out of helicopters and other like pro-fascist shit.
Yeah.
And I think that in the beginning of this, you were talking about how most people aren't kind of like in tune with the happenings in the world and the history of the world. So they'll see something and they'll like it, they'll think it's funny, but they don't understand the context that it's in and the ramifications that exist within it. So they don't know when they're like promoting like fascist shit, that kind of thing. I see that all the time in these like military like meme pages.
Yeah, no, and like we probably don't really even exist too much in the military, online world. I don't know how much there is space for like leftist, like serious leftist fucking military shit.
Yeah, you guys are some of like the most active online in that realm, and I think it's fantastic the way that you guys are getting that kind of exposure to people.
And I mean and like I can't tell you how many people, which this is like the number one thing, for I think most of us in Left Flank, is finding other leftist vets that are like, I have been searching so long, it's like every leftist vet we meet is coming across like an ideological desert, right? Like they've mostly not have the just communal groups for just that shared camaraderie, which fuck, you could know how to do the same person's job, you could share the same church, but yeah, like having an outlook on life that is shared, it's important to be able to foster that. So yeah, and that's why too, it's like we are unapologetically like socialist, we are unapologetically communist, we are so unapologetically anarchist. Those are that, like, those we are all, we want to be unapologetically left, not progressive, definitely not fucking liberal, like truly left, truly something that is revolutionary in nature and helpful to our, not only our species, right, to the whole damn thing. Because where we're going right now is like we're just destroying ourselves. So yeah, I guess people were like, that seems like there just wasn't that, and I think it's also too, it's like with left media, like left groups, they're all growing, and the Zoomers are fucking saving us. So
yeah, they're active and they are intelligent. They're doing great. So yep. In your 4-person squad you got going on right now, how much do you vary politically from each other? I mean, I think we all know that left unity is kind of one of those subjects that is like super controversial, and we can never really see eye to eye. How do you guys see eye to eye if you disagree on something, or do you like completely avoid kind of political discussions?
And so I would say Lorax is like anarcho-communist. He is trying to get to like completely like, moneyless state. Erica, solidly communist, and she, is probably right now in a tattoo shop getting Debs across her back. But and like that stage, it was like I've always considered myself a socialist. Other people have convinced me to say, hey, you're a communist. Just say that. It's not going to get co-opted, and also it's just true. So I was like, okay, like what? But at the end of the day, I don't really care too much about the label or even the end goal. Just because like I know that within my lifetime, I'm not going to see it. I'm going to die fighting for it. But, so that's where it's like, and we all kind of recognize like the steps along the way to whatever our personal goals are for what society should be are identical up to a point, and that point that we're all like that the most quote unquote right of us is all beyond our lifetimes. So fuck it. Like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of arguing over that shit? Yeah. Like, we're all gonna end like we're gonna have a black bag in Guantanamo Bay anyway. So like, let's fucking fight together, right?
Oh yeah, they're gonna keep promising to shut that place down for the next like 20 presidential terms, and we'll see.
Yeah. Which and like that's like one of the easy like getting people to not love Obama, that's like one of the fucking hardest things. And you can just say it's like he promised to shut down Guantanamo Bay and didn't. Oh well, he literally stood up AFRICOM, like that. Well, the terrorists, just like that's when you see Blue MAGA come out. You start talking the truth about Obama, you see Blue MAGA come out in a heartbeat.
I was actually going to ask that because as a black man, it must be kind of hard for you in like your day to day to convince people that Obama wasn't the like starring black figure that people want to paint him as, especially, I mean, considering that you served while he was president. So, I mean, I guess more broadly, like, can you talk about that and like where, I mean, we're also talking about like the differences in leftist politics and like black liberation and black struggles are also, it's kind of separate but equal thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and that's something like, what you're hitting on, and this is something that I'm stealing from a guy named Pascal Robert, who we do a show together on Tuesdays and Saturday mornings. And yeah, it was kind of like a joint venture with another dude, Jason Miles, and This is Revolution podcast. But I just want to make sure I give everybody the proper clout. But yeah, Pascal says black politics is class politics in the United States. And it's to say that the black political class, i.e. people like Obama, James Clyburn, Colin Powell, Susan Rice, these are not people that are geared towards, like you said, black liberation, right? These are people that are there to protect their own class. So like you will see that the black political class exists on its own as separate from the overarching black community. So yeah, that how to explain to people that you've been sold a bill of goods. This is it's difficult, but it can be done. And it also too depends on like who you're talking to. My parents are middle class folks now. They're immigrants, came came to the United States. My dad joined the army to get his citizenship, but like worked up, right? And so convincing them that Obama wasn't what he said he was is a lot more difficult than people whose material conditions never changed under any of the presidents, right? And so for some cases, it is just recognizing that the class struggle, these things, race and class are separate, but they are intertwined. And especially when you look at some of the just systemic issues within the United States. So yeah, it's a difficult thing, right? Um, but that is something that, like, as a black dude on the left, that I recognize, like, hey, it might be a little bit more of my job to make sure that I'm carrying substantive, accurate critiques of the first black president, so that way, white people can say the same shit, and know that they're not saying anything over the line. But also too, that people who are listening to this can understand that I am a black man who is trying to care for black people, and the first person is myself, because that motherfucker sent me on 2 deployments for nothing. So, that's if anyone's going to say, oh, hey, well, he did this, okay, let's just talk about me. How would you feel if you were in my position? Okay, now let's talk about the people who were in Guantanamo Bay that were held without any type of conviction, any type of arraignment, any type of anything. Now let's talk about the hundreds of thousands, the millions of black people who are in prison, or just the people in general for nonviolent drug offenses that he could have cleared that up day. So like it once you actually talk about the facts and say, hey, is this the first black president or the first president that just happened to be black? So like Lloyd Austin, the first black Secretary of Defense. He's the 50-somethingth Secretary of Defense to be on a board of a defense contractor. He just happens to be black. So just that's the clear distinction right there. There's some, that class distinction, it can happen for black politics just like it does for white politics, because it's not really any different, right?
Yeah, you were talking about how the class issue and the race issue are the same thing really in America, or it can be the same. That also like leads to military recruitment, and how there's military recruitment in some areas and not other areas, and how they really focus on impoverished communities and communities that are going through environmental injustice, where they're just people are just like Lorax was looking for a job. I was just looking for opportunity. I was like dead ending my life basically in alcoholism, and I couldn't make it with any kind of entry level job because I couldn't get paid enough, which is another problem in this country that we're seeing. So I went to a recruiter who's basically like a used car salesman and tried to really fuck me over in a multitude of ways. But I was kind of like taken advantage of, and it affects everything in America, the way that and in the military, it really pulls a certain
we just call it the poverty draft. The fact that housing, education, food, those are things that are, decidedly kept from people and used as a recruitment tool by the military. And you see that across the board. You look at the lower income neighborhoods, higher amount of military recruiting offices. And that's you look at any state, any city, any county, it doesn't matter. It's all the same thing.
It's extremely predatory.
Yeah. Yep. And that, I mean, that's kind of like even yeah, like I said, like why we even went to Twitch is like, I think on some level I'm even all right. Like, hey, if there's some people sitting in the strip mall, you know, in their service uniforms, you know, doing their bullshit, like that's one thing. Getting recruiters out of high schools, getting them off of Twitch streaming as like, you know, these cool guy gamers and shit like that. That's the, you know, that's a whole different thing. You know, so that's like it really just like it pisses me off. It makes me upset, you know, because like yeah, you know, we both know what the military is, and we know what it is not, and it's not something that should be sold to a 13-year-old.
Oh my god, yeah.
Which is like the official age you have to be on Twitch, right? But like, come on, you know, we all use the internet just the way it's supposed to be, right?
One bullshit thing I think in the military that I think, all right, this is probably going to be like off the record anyway, is that you can't fucking watch porn when you're fucking deployed. Speaking about using the internet in the way it's supposed to be.
Is that a rule?
It wasn't in the Marines. Are you serious?
Well, I mean, like, not like if it's a rule, no one even tried to tell us that bullshit. Like that's a rule. No one tried to sell us on that one, and they told us on a lot of stupid ass shit. But no one, like, yeah, they never tried to pass like a don't watch porn. Yeah, come on, get the fuck out of here with that.
When I was deployed, they would confiscate any porn DVDs. You weren't allowed to like look at
my
sites.
God.
They found a fleshlight in one kid's room. That was like a big deal. That was like more of a big deal than finding like alcohol. You know what I mean?
Imagine you are some just 18-year-old just hopped up on patriotism and 9/11, and you just want to go spread freedom and democracy, and you can't even bring your fleshlight. Like, what the hell? What the hell's going on?
What is freedom in this country?
That's some fucking malarkey right there. And I'm sorry if I'm cursing in the PG podcast. I apologize if I'm cursing too much. That's malarkey though.
Oh man.
But no, that wasn't a rule. And like,
all right, the Marines are much cooler than the military and the Army.
We're not, but I appreciate you saying that.
As long as we all agree that the Navy is the least cool.
I think. Now the space, I think the Space Force.
Oh,
Space Force. Yeah, they're just starting.
Yeah. Well, and they're starting off on just a really bad foot. You know, starting off just all bad with the whole Star Trek logo. They're called like Space Guardians, like.
Man, they ripped off Marvel so much from that.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd. You know, it's pretty absurd. But I think the Air Force, Chair Force, that's what we like. The Marines, we always used to, and also the Air Force got the most money just for coming to Marine bases. So that's one thing that's crazy. Yeah, is that Air Force personnel. And like that's like if you're coming to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which is a Marine Corps base, they get hazard duty pay because our installation is such dog shit.
What a bougie ass fucking arm.
Oh yes.
Holy shit.
Oh yes. And so that's also like we talk to people and like we've had to talk to some young people who are like, listen, like I don't want to join the military, but like there's really no other option. I don't see any other option. And so say, hey, if you're gonna do anything, I would say, you know, one, just join the Air Force, try and find some fucking weird tech job, you know. Yep. And I can't promise you you're not gonna do an imperialism because that's what you're there to do, an imperialism. But it's got its own university embedded within the branch. Yeah, and some of the best elementary schools that go like DOD elementary schools, Air Force, you know, best installation, Air Force. So if you have to, go to the Chair Force, be some nerd.
You don't even have to run. You can ride a bike for your PT test.
Yeah, and like the Marines, just it sucks. You got to run the most. You got to do the pull-ups. Like the uniform, everything's got to be perfect. You got to be squared away. Highest, dumbest haircuts. Like the Marine Corps, the only thing the Marine Corps is good at is marketing and getting everybody to believe that that being a Marine is special. You know, and like just off of instinct, you know, if someone says like, "Oh, you're so," I'm a Marine. You know, like. They really get the pill. They get the Kool-Aid in deep into your cerebellum in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. It's so true. You'll still see you'll never see an Army flag or a Navy flag or an Air Force flag driving down the street.
That's true.
It's always the Marine.
That's right.
It's always I'm sorry. I apologize. You know, for a whole lot of them. All right. I'm sorry. They make us this way, and then it's just like it's a perpetual like engine, right? Once you make a Marine, like it's like a vampire, you know. Unless you chop off the heads of all of them, they're just gonna keep.
Do you have anything that you want to plug for you guys? You got any special event coming up for you guys, or?
I don't think we do have anything special, you know. I actually gotta just take a stream break so that I can start setting up some stuff. But we do stream almost every night, and then starting to get into a lot of weekends, or I'm sorry, a lot of weekdays. Twitch.tv/leftflankvets is where you can find us on Twitch, at leftflankvets on Twitter. We do have a Facebook and Instagram, but it's not that cool. We just kind of do like the, hey, we're live, you know. But yeah, that's where we can find us. But hopefully coming up, looking to get going into different candidates that are running for office. And then, just overall interesting people. And I like bringing on historians as well, so we can, you know, actually like learn and bring some good context to shit. So that's what we got going on.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget that this is not the end of the interview. We just had to cut it off for the sake of keeping the half episode below an hour. If you want to keep listening, we talked about a lot of really cool things for the next hour and a half. You can just go on our Patreon and pledge $1 a month, or just pay for 1 month. Don't have it repeating, and you have access to the rest of this episode and other bonus episodes to come, as well as merch that we're working on. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Marcus, for coming on. Hope that you're on again sometime, and we hope to be on Left Flank Vets sometime. And thanks.